Hey guys, welcome back to the Turbo V6 YouTube channel. My name's Brandon, and today we're working on the FireTurd. Well, here it is. I'm putting a jungle gym on the front of the Firebird. So in the last episode, you saw this thing. It was pretty well tore apart, and now I've torn even more stuff off of it. I got all the wiring taken out, and the dash is partially out. I have so much more room in here to work on things and for cutting and splicing and wiring and all that stuff. And don't forget, there's going to be a turbo under here, so got to make room for that thing. Right here in this box is the next big thing for the Firebird. So that's what we're going to jump into next. Let's get this box open. There's one tube. There's another tube. More tubes. Pretty nice looking. A couple laser cut brackets. More brackets, more tubes. Smaller tubes. There's a couple caps. And one last tube. So what is this? This is a tube front kit from Rock Solid Motorsports, and it's gonna lop off the whole front end of this car and give me a lot of room for turbos and intercooler and radiator. Give me a lot of options for layout. So we're gonna pull out the instructions for this kit and get going. All right, well, I printed out the instructions so I can kind of follow along and not have to mess with my phone. But I'm going to try and go through as many of the steps as I possibly can, and yeah, try and give a walkthrough of how to install this kit and kind of my experience of how it goes. So I did buy the full kit other than the radiator mounts because I'm going to wind up doing my own custom radiator. I have a couple ideas, but I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to do it just yet. I need to get this kit on and the front end mocked up so I see how much room I have in certain locations so I can see what I want to do with the radiator setup. But I did buy basically the full kit. Other than that, it comes with laser cut brackets for the headlights. It comes with the laser cut bracket for the front bumper. So hopefully pretty much no one will notice with the hood closed that this thing has a tube front. All the body panels will be in alignment. All right, looks like the first thing is remove all the body parts and take off anything in the way, which obviously you can see I've already done. The next portion is to position the car so that the front frame rails are front level, front to rear and side to side. See if we can get this thing leveled out, and then we'll keep moving on. So across from frame rail to frame rail, you can see that's pretty much dead nuts. Didn't have to do anything side to side. It was, the floor must be pretty level. And then front to back, you can see pretty much dead nuts on that one and on that one. So looks good to me. Now that I have the rear jacked up, I'll also be able to pull off the rest of the exhaust. I only pulled off till right at the rear axle. So I'm gonna have to pull that muffler and those tips off because those are no longer going to be used. So yeah, I'm gonna grab a drink. I'm getting old, so laying down, getting back up 30 times, yeah, that'll wear you out. Okay, so now everything's level. So the next big thing to do on the instruction is to measure where the headlight mounts are in relation to, some kind of reference point. It shows kind of from the front of the shock tower, but I'm pretty sure it doesn't matter where you measure from, because you just basically need these new laser cut brackets to be in the same position. This is actually the other side, so I'm just going to, since the car is all up on jack stands and it's basically not going to move, I'm going to also measure from one of these top ones to the ground, and they're all level, like plumb now. So now they're all plumb. So really all I need to do is measure from the top of these two holes, even though these are slotted. Adjust the headlight up and down if I need to, but I'm definitely going to need to get the front to back in the right spot. So just going to grab a pen and write, left side, right side for each one. That way I know exactly where it is and where I measure from. So let's get to measuring. All right, so I got all my measurements taken, and now I'll just need to replicate that whenever I weld the headlight brackets on. And then there's these support tubes that hold the headlight bracket in place. So once I get to the point of mocking all that up, that's when I'll need to reference these measurements. So I cannot lose this. I'll actually probably take a picture of this just in case I lose it. The next step is to do the marking for the cutting, which it starts on the passenger side, and it states to run a vertical line straight up from where this corner of the shock tower is, and just draw a line vertical. And I'm kind of assuming that the cut is going to just come straight across. So I might wind up marking it all the way over here, because I don't know if my Sawzall blade is going to be long enough to cut through this whole section at once. So I might have to kind of cut this side and then cut from over here. Now it says you follow that curve all the way down to the corner of this circle, and then from the edge of this, it's saying to mark a straight line across the frame well using a square. So I'll line it up with that. And do the same thing using the square, going down along the frame rail. And there we go. So that's our cut line for the passenger side. Okay, now we need to do basically the exact same thing we did over there on this side, with the added complication of this bracket being in the way. So I think before you can make this cut, you really just got to cut this out of the way. Somehow, ideally, I would own a spot weld removal tool, but I might just center punch these and try and drill those out by hand real quick. I'm actually not sure my drill will fit in between here, so that might be fun. Alright, yep, I decided I'm going to try and drill these spot welds out. Looks like there's 2 spot welds over on the fender support and 2 spot welds on the shock tower. Sadly, I don't have a spot weld drilling or spot weld drill bit or whatever you want to call it. These ones don't matter. If you don't have one of these center punches that are automatic, you just push on it. You need to buy one. They're amazing. So these ones I don't really care about. If I drill through these, I would rather not drill through, but it's not a huge deal. it would just look better if I didn't drill those all the way through. Oop, there we go. There we go. Now, we don't need to leave part of this bracket on this strut tower. I'll just be able to sand that little bit of rust off, and then whenever I paint the front of the tube front, I'll just scuff that up and paint that too. So it looks like this is done pretty much the exact same way as the other side. All right, now's the time. This blade might be a little big, the teeth might be a little coarse, but I'm gonna try it anyway. That way I'm gonna try and get kind of a one clean cut through these upper fender pieces, upper fender supports, whatever you want to call them. That way I don't have to come in from two sides and potentially not have the cut line up. So yeah, let's do it. No turning back now. All right, I'm gonna try and cut the front kind of fender portion with this little body saw from Harbor Freight. I haven't had luck with it in the past, so we'll see how it works. Okay, well that took way longer than expected and killed my back bending over to cut this, but I now have both sides cut from, you know, the outside all the way to the up to the frame rail. So really the two frame rails are the only thing holding this front radiator support on. So now I'm not sure how I'm going to get a Sawzall blade in here. I might have to come in with the body saw and cut out like a little spot, or maybe I could just use a hole saw. I'm not sure. Sadly, I might have to use the body saw a little bit more. So that way I can come in from here and ride down my marked line, because if I cut it from the other side, or if I cut it like this, I'm not sure I'll be able to get it perfectly square. At least like from the inside, I know I could get it really nice and square. So let's go and clearance this section on both sides so the Sawzall blade can get in there, and then we'll be able to do the last cut. All right, here goes the final cut. Okay, well I think that's it. Whew. I guess there's only really one way to tell. Yep, it's disconnected. Yeah, that's pretty heavy. It's easy to work on now. Well, I think that's about all the energy I have for today. Pretty good progress though. So we'll catch you tomorrow. All right, we're back at it. It's a couple days later and we have the front end now completely cut off. Really quick, I want to weigh the section that we cut off. So I got the scale set up and we're gonna give this a quick weigh in, see how much weight we're getting rid of. Now, I don't know, I guess maybe we could also weigh the components that are gonna go back on and then try and get an idea of how much weight we're gonna save. About 203, yeah. And I'm about 153 right now, so it's almost 50 pounds. $178, so what's that, a few pounds shy of 25 pounds, so like 22 pounds. It's not too bad, but this is also the biggest thing with this is really creating more room up front. So all right, well, it looks like the next step we need to do is to kind of clean up the areas right around we're going to weld. It's already jumping into kind of tacking things into place. So basically around here and around here is where we're going to be welding. So we'll need to clean off the paint around that and just like get rid of this sharp edge, try and get rid of the sharp edges. So yeah, let's jump into that. I got all the ends of where the tube front welds to all cleaned up. I tried to get the inside and the outside. The outside's pretty easy, but the inside was a little difficult in some of the, tight corners. The next step, I think, is to jump into actually tacking everything in place. So, I did the bare metal, cleaned it down to bare metal, used a wire brush, and now we got to hold it in place so that we can tack it. So it starts with these kind of front lower tubes, and then you position this crossbar, and then you basically level and square the front frame rail tubes off of that. And then it should be pretty easy after that's square. There's really not a whole lot of measurements that need to go into these tubes because they're already pre-notched and pre-cut. So thankfully that shouldn't be too hard. So where we left off last time, I finished cutting the front end off and I ground down all the paint on where we're gonna weld. And I realized I didn't have any weld through primer, and I definitely didn't want, internally rusting where I welded. So had to wait a couple days, but now I got the primer. So I have both the lower front sections already painted where we're going to weld. Those are the first sections that we're going to weld. So going by the instructions, it wants you to weld this top plate, or at least tack it in place in one of the top corners. So I'm going to use the top inside corner. on both of the front tubes. So we're going to do that on this corner and this corner, and then it'll allow us to kind of square the tubes up. We need to put the crossbar in place, and then we'll be able to continue with the rest of the top down tubes, and we'll get that spray painted and rust prevented, so none of this will rust on the inside once we're done. All right, well, it looks like I got the tubes kind of tacked in place. I got this front crossbar in the correct location. Everything's square and level within, you know, a very tiny amount. I got it pretty much level within 0.1 of a degree, and everything's pretty well lined up. So now I got to tack this crossbar in place and then tack all four corners of those front frame plates. And then we can move on to kind of the fender tie down bars. Okay, so I had to do a little bit of grinding on the sides to make these down tubes fit a little bit better. So they were nice and flush with the kind of fender sheet metal, so I didn't have to fill massive gaps, and basically just cleaned up where the welds are going to be. And now I think oh, and I also put the zinc weld through primer on the insides of the fenders. And now I think I'm ready to kind of try and hold them in place and then tack them up. And then, yeah, I think the next step after that is to fully weld it out. So let's get these things tacked in place. All right, well, I got the fender tubes tacked into place. They turned out pretty good. Trying to get a hang of welding again. It's been a while since I've welded anything. Blowing through a little bit because it's kind of like thin sheet metal and this kind of like 1/8 inch, pretty thick compared to whatever that is. And yeah, so it looks like it's coming together pretty good. The next step is really to weld all of this completely. but I'm not sure I want to do that exactly just yet. So this is the front hoop. It doesn't specify where to weld it, so I think I'm probably going to have to mock up you know, where the bumper is going to sit to be able to know exactly where to put that. And I know that this mounts to that, but I don't know where this is going to sit, so I really don't know where to put that at just yet. So I'll probably move on to the headlight mounts next, which it says are probably the most difficult thing to get positioned, which I would probably agree. It doesn't even look like the tubes that it comes with are notched. They're just kind of cut straight, and then these laser cut brackets just need to be, you know, put into place, and I took measurements for that, so I'm gonna have to go off the measurements. I'm gonna say this is a part 1 install for the install of the RSM tube front kit, so stay tuned for the rest. I know that I'm excited to see how much room I'm gonna gain by having this. You can obviously see that there's pretty much, I could put 2 of those motors in here, you know, if I didn't have to have a radiator and whatnot, but that motor sits pretty far back there, so I'm gonna have tons of room for a radiator, you know, oil cooler, whatever I wanna do up here, turbo kit, all that stuff. So I'm excited to see how much room I have. So if you guys wanna see more, be sure to click that subscribe button, give me a thumbs up if you like what you see, and we'll see you guys next time.